Right, hey guys, we are back once again. Gonna keep them going until the wheels fall off, I guess.
Yeah.
So, interesting. About 2 weeks ago, we released a podcast called "It Status Quo."
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went off just a little bit, a little bit of passion there. Whole hour and 30 minutes. It was hands down our longest podcast.
Yes.
And I thank you, Blair, for just allowing me to showcase that passion without any filter and just kind of go. I really do. And so now what I think would be kind of good for our audience would be the response. Like, that was a lot of me in that podcast. But I think what would be really good is to get a lot of Blair for this one. I know. I know. Our friendship would definitely be affected by these answers.
No pressure.
No pressure. No, it would not be. I want you to be truthful. I want to hear your honest opinion. You're speaking for Blair and your experiences. You're not speaking for all white people. You're not speaking for a white guy who has a black best friend. You're speaking for Blair and what he has. And don't worry, buddy. If there's anything, we'll get through it together, and we might have to learn some things and unlearn some things together, because that's what friends do.
We might have some heavy editing to do too.
Nope. Mine was very unfiltered. Yours gets to be very unfiltered.
Too. Okay.
So
sounds good.
Unless you say something really bad.
we don't want Blair to die or anything. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I came up with a little list of questions to kind of interview you with. But before I do that, is there any thoughts that you would like to put out for the audience? Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything for them?
I don't know. It's been kind of a confusing time for me. Past few weeks.
Okay.
So, just different things. Honestly, just doing this podcast and getting my answers helped me through some of that confusion. So
it definitely helped me. Before that podcast, people were asking me, and I was giving them, advice and trying to, just being there for people, and not really. I wasn't giving my opinion for everything. I didn't realize how much I had to say until we hit the record button.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will do for you how it helped me. So with this, when you're saying these past few weeks, so with this whole entire time, after we've seen, the George Floyd video, after we, Breonna Taylor's murderers are still out there, which again, this is another good day to arrest those murderers. Just saying, another good day. No time like the present. Tomorrow will be a good day, but today's even better. Mm-hmm. Yesterday would have been even better.
Yeah.
A month ago would have been even better. So, just gonna go ahead and say that. But so during this time period of all of this that we've kind of seen, what has been the most eye-opening thing for you personally?
I don't think it was I don't know if there was a specific event. So, at my program, we're a pretty diverse program. There's white people, there's black people, and there's some Indian and Middle Eastern people, which I guess is what we come to expect from doctors at this point. It's that kind of that mix. One of the upper level residents, she was asking she's white. She was asking one of our black residents how they were doing with all this, and she could have taken one of the normal responses, being "Oh, I'm okay, whatever, I'm working." Yeah, but she didn't, and she was like, "You know what? This is a tough time for me. I'm going through a lot right now. I have kids that I'm trying to figure out how to explain this to, and I'm kind of at a loss, And we actually have like a Zoom session of us venting or whatever about what had been going on at the time, what is still somewhat going on now. And honestly, I did what I normally do. I listened. I don't know. I don't share my thoughts unless they're asked. And so, and then after that, we had like a kneeling for Black Lives Matter outside of the hospital. And there was a good flock of people. I actually missed it because I was busy doing something else. Or I thought I was supposed to be somewhere else. Okay, so I would have been there if I thought I could have. But so I don't know. It's those events in themselves, and then also like the response of the people that I'm actually around a good bit right now. I got to a point where you were the forefront of my mind, and I started getting afraid of what could happen to my best friend. And I still haven't fully resolved that. I'm probably not going to.
It's not something that's going to be resolvable because this isn't an issue that's going to be resolved in our lifetime. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, let's shift away from what's happening outside the world. Let's kind of shift into you. So with you being, a white guy, have you ever had a time where you just really had to recognize your privilege, or your privilege was just put on full display, and it was just like it smacked you in the face that this is something that makes me inherently different, not because of anything I've done?
Honestly, white privilege is like really hard to see. Like from the outside looking in, because as a white person, it's always there. It's the ocean and you're the fish. So seeing it is a whole different matter entirely. I think that there's a difference subtly between racism and white privilege, and so racism I see like quite a bit, like all the time, really. But white privilege is much harder for me to see. I know, like there's like in certain news events, right, where I can like see, I can like specifically label, okay, that's what privilege, that's what privilege, that's what. But when it comes to my own life, it's actually, I don't have really examples that I can spit off at you because it's hard to see for me.
That might be the best example.
Maybe. But I mean, like, there's like the amount of black men that are in jail because of marijuana charges. There's the harsher or longer sentences for the same crimes that essentially the same like group of people. The only difference is white and black. Same judge, same all of this, and there's a much harsher sentence for the black person. And I mean, kind of what I said in the last podcast, I still think that's subconscious. I don't know that the judge is literally like, oh, you're black, you're going to get this much. Oh, you're white, you're going to get this much.
Honestly, it's scarier if it is subconscious.
Well, and that's part of my point. I think it is. But the fact that we've been talking this long and I still have trouble seeing my privilege, that's like, at least in my own life, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a hard thing to see because you're just so used to it. It's like, okay, so I have a mom who loves me and I have brother who loves me and a sister who loves me. So it's hard to think about people who are devoid of love. Because to me, it's like, wow, your mom didn't love you. Like, you didn't have a sibling who loved you. I have great friends who love me. Great friends. So it's like, it's going to be hard for me to see like people who are devoid of love. But there are definitely people who have been devoid of love. And so I think what ends up happening is that you see it when it smacks you in the face. And it usually smacks you in the face when you're around a person who it's their reality at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which we found out a lot, but I guess it's really, I can't, besides that one time that we mentioned on the last podcast,
right?
That's really the only time that I would say is outwardly, like, just been something just blatant when we were both in the same room. So
I guess that's the thing, is like, I don't know that it's really something that you can see just from looking at your own life. I think it's something that you have to compare my life to yours and see where the difference is. So like the story is that even at Tech, that like I still remember this day because they like shocked me, right? Like you getting carted by like security in one of the Tech buildings, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
when I was studying.
When you're studying.
Yeah.
And then you getting pulled over by the cops literally at Tech. Not once, but twice, right? It like, at least from my knowledge at our time there, like did any of those things ever happen to me? No. And so yes, when I specifically do that, then yes, I see my white privilege, right? None of those things ever happened to me. Not for, I didn't get pulled over for driving while black in a decent area.
Oh, really? You didn't get pulled over driving while black? Oh,
No.
my goodness. That was definitely my next question.
Right? So, yes. When I look at that, yes, I see my white privilege. But when I think it might be like nearly impossible to see if you're literally just sitting, like looking at your own life and trying to do these things. It's only by comparison that that's like when you starting to be able to see it. And how do you have comparison? You have someone that you love that is in that situation. You're not going to find white privilege if you're only looking at your own life.
Fair. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably my opinion. So when you say white privilege doesn't exist, maybe you're not looking in the right places.
You have to be willing to see somebody else's shoes. Too.
You do.
So you're gonna ask somebody. Okay, so shifting a little bit more now. So instead of going away from white privilege, but going into deeper racism. So have you ever experienced being around someone who is just a overt racist? Like, I mean, there are always levels of racism, but like this person, it was like everyone's like, if there's a racist. And then at the same time, this being someone who is per se close to you. There's a difference if it's just some random person on the street versus if it's a family member.
Yeah. Yeah. So. The answer is yes.
You don't have to give your names or which
right.
family member.
I'm not going to, because I'm not going to alienate anyone.
Please don't do that. Yeah.
But yeah. And there's times where I have tolerated that like well, and there's times where I haven't. I was like, I've been in a room and I hear people saying things that honestly hurt me, and that speaks of itself, like something that wasn't even intended to be painful to me, and it was painful to me because it was about a group of people that I cared about, which is in itself kind of white privilege. Just gonna say.
So we're gonna get that answer.
Yeah.
Another question. Got you. Okay.
Yes. You're like, oh, you're hurting because of that? You're like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. But no, I literally walked out of the room. I'm like, I'm not hearing any more of this.
Okay.
I walked out. And then there's other times where I'm like, it's the subtle racism that is sometimes honestly the worst, because they're saying things and they don't even realize like that's racist. Like that's you're living in a society where that you've been taught that mentality is okay, it's normal, it's acceptable, and that's why you don't see it as racist. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, for one thing, people have to be receptive to what you have to say for it to have any impact. And so most of the time in these situations I stay quiet. Because just having your opinion out there, it by itself doesn't necessarily do anything. And I would rather, like, we've talked about before, how do you really create change in people? How do you really help people? And a lot of the times it's extremely difficult to do in a group basis. What you can do is, you have this one person you develop a relationship with, and it's not even something that you're like looking for things in their life, like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But it's about having a relationship with them and then them actually being comfortable enough with you to start like telling you their problems, or like, this is what I see. These are some of the things that I'm insecure about in myself. And for me, it's in those times where you really have the opportunity to be like, well, how can you be better in that situation? And so, I don't know. That's more of like how when I hear racist things, and if it's with someone that I'm like really close to, I'm on a one-on-one basis with, and I'm like, are you sure about that? Just introduce a little bit of doubt. Because, I don't know, I'm seeing on Facebook all these things of like, delete friend or educate. And to me, delete friend is never the way. If you were deleting the people that are the problem is persisting. They're just not a problem for you anymore. I don't know. That's just my...
No, I mean, that is a well put philosophy.
I think that...
It's avoidance.
Yeah. And you have to love the people that are racist too, if you want them to be changed. They're not going to disappear.
Well, most of the time you already do, if they're family members.
Yes. But, and that's my point, is like, you don't ghost them. If anything, hell, you get into their life more, right? You start introducing doubt on these things that are like, oh, well, I don't know if he's black. And I'm like, well, tell me why you're saying that, because I don't understand. Like, that's not how I see things. So can you explain like your perspective to me? And then it's subtly sharing these things, subtly getting to a point where you have a change of the subconscious views. And this isn't something that takes 5 minutes. This is something that takes months and years, and time, dedication, and love. So I don't know. I think I kind of deviated way from what your original question was, but
I mean, for the most part, yeah. Okay, yeah, and no one deviated more from questions than I did in the last podcast.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But okay, so now diving down even further into your psyche, have you ever been racist, buddy?
Yes. No doubt about it. And it's something that I, still work on. I'm going to probably have to continue working on every day until I become John Brown, right? I don't know. I mean, I can say Black Lives Matter all day long, but unless I actually sacrifice something for it, I don't know if there's any meaning to it. And I mean, John Brown was probably still a little bit racist, but for his time, that was a monumental action that he did. Now, for me, when I get to a point where I can actually have that monumental action, that's it. It'll be one moment where I can say, I was this person. I was this person that I've been trying to be my whole life, and I finally had that. Because racism is in subconscious, it's in mentalities, perspectives of the past, of events, and it's also in moments that are shared between people that are around you. And racism is so pervasive that I can probably, if I really search in my head, in fact, there's plenty of times where I can actually pinpoint times where I've been racist. But it's about having a want, a need to change that part of me.
Okay. So, now stepping away from you and going more so towards the society, simple question. Why do you think white people hate black people so much?
Ooh. I think that the more that you have, the more that you do to defend it. Whether that's white privilege, even if subconscious, you defend it. And so I think that there can be a fear associated with black people from white people of accomplishment to the same degree that we have had, right? In the U.S., I mean, white people have made the accomplishments in the U.S.
He did quotations for the people who are listening. It's important. It's an important difference that they can't see it.
If you look at U.S. history, if you look at what we're taught, all of the major accomplishments that we have been made by white people. I mean, there's speckled here and there. You'll have other races, but
they've been given credit for it.
Right. What happens when that starts to shift and white people start becoming less important? So, if you're asking me why I think racism even exists, then it's because of a fear of other races gaining more prominence in a subconscious view, right? So when you hear the colors black and white, what do you think of?
Me personally, I either think of the actual colors or I think about them in terms of physics, light.
Okay. So what I think of is white means good, black means bad.
Fair.
Because that is, from our beginning, that is what our society has drilled into my head.
The etymology of those words right now.
Right. No matter what my cognitive, thinking brain tells me, it's like, well, that's not actually true. But if you go back, really deep into yourself, what do white and black mean? I mean, that's go to the dark side.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Or go to the light.
Right. And I mean, how does a black person handle that? I don't know. I'm the good guy every single time.
Yeah. I
don't know how I would handle that subconsciously if I were on the other side. I don't.
No. Okay. How does oh my God, you were pure like snow. How does that make you feel? If you're reading about a character, or in your book and you read the character which is pure as snow,
yeah,
and you see yourself in that character, how does that make you feel?
I'm the prince.
So it's going to be the counter effect.
Right.
For it. So you feel worth.
Yeah.
You feel degradation.
Right.
And so.
And see, that's my point, though, is there's the macro issue of, yes, there is police brutality. There is systemic racism of Black people not being able to get jobs as well as Black people. We're getting into the same institutions that we do for education or whatever, which that's the problem. That's a whole other discussion. But this is so deep. In the last podcast, you said this is the U.S. It is. Like, it's inseparable. The U.S. was built upon racist principles. And just because you abolish laws that made it racist does not mean that it's no longer racist. We have a lot more work to do if we want to get to that point. If you don't, then that's fine. You can just chill if you want. But if you're one of the people that actually you want something different, then you need to know that racism is not destroyed by laws. Not in my mind. It's, for one thing, not trying to destroy it. I've always held the belief that if you want a former way of thought or being or whatever to fall away, then you ignore it. And you build something better. Because if you build something that is better than the other thing, people flock to the thing that is better. And eventually they'll leave that of their own accord, of their own choice, which is what you have to do with racism anyway. They have to choose a better way. You can't tear it down. They'll rebuild it. They have to choose the other path. So, I don't know. I still have confusion, and you can see that coming out right now, because some of this is just disjointed, and some of this is just my brain, and this is my flow of thought coming out.
I mean, yeah, these questions that I have for you, it's not like these are premeditated answers that I said, hey, Blair, here's a week in advance. Think about what you want to say. No, this is coming off the cusp of just how he feels and how he is interpreting these questions that I have for you. Okay, so you kind of hit on this a little bit with your last answer, but what is the solution?
I think there's a problem in this question, and I'm always reluctant to give my ideas for a solution to this because there is a classic image of white savior. And while it may be thought of that a white person can save or help or whatever with Black people, I think it's well-intentioned, but at some point it actually reinforces the racism that brought up the notion of a white savior to begin with. I think that Black people need to realize their own power, and they need to kind of do what I was saying, build, right? You build your own stuff, and you pour everything into it. Your pain, your heritage and ancestry, you pour it into it. And stop trying to be friends with white people. As weird as that sounds, right? Because I love you, I value our friendship. Right?
I'll walk out the door. I know. Continue, please.
Like, our friendship is the most important friendship that I've ever had, and one of the most important relationships that I had. At the end of the day, I'm reluctant to give solutions because I don't want to be the white savior. And so there's a point where it's like you were saying, do I know like any family or friends or whatever that have like, had racist moments? And I think my way forward is loving them and getting to know them even more, to a point where they feel comfortable sharing a lot of these things with me, and us becoming better people together, rather than me telling Black people to do anything. Because at the end of the day, it has to be your own choice. And it can't come from me. It can't. Then it comes back to, I fully believe that racism is subconscious, and changing laws and protests and all this stuff is great, but it doesn't solve the issue, right? And we're a long way from solving it, but it can be done. I believe it can be done.
It's only been this issue for 500 years. We have 100,000 years before that. So what can be learned can be unlearned, right? So I'm really happy that you kind of did bring up this like white savior complex that we do have, because like I said, you did give a good response for Black people to build up. Historians would then have the counter argument that we have built up and we got bombed.
Yes.
We have built up and it got taken from us.
Yeah.
But then you also did say something about like just not really having white friends because it probably gets taken because we're friendly. I mean, that's really, I don't think we've ever been really quote unquote conquerors in terms of where we literally go into a land and take the land and take the ideas and I've always, at least from my readings and stuff like that, it always seemed like when anybody from even African civilizations invaded another land and stuff like that, they didn't force anybody to take on their principles or their ideologies or religion. It's usually those people saw, oh, these people are kind of cool, and they wanted to take on their ideology and religions, from my understandings. So, for the final question that I have for you would be, why do Black Lives Matter?
So I guess I have to answer this in multiple ways. For one thing, life matters to me. Whether it's the plant outside, it's the mosquito that freaking. Yes. No, but I don't kill mosquitoes. I blow them. I say.
You do. I have seen that. I've witnessed this.
Because I really think it's killing living things. At least they're in front of me, because I do eat meat.
I guess for another time.
So that's my mentality on a base level, okay? Which isn't quite as relevant to what we're talking about, but I think it's important to say that. For me personally, it's because you matter to me. I think as a white person, it is impossible to understand Black Lives Matter without truly loving and caring about a Black person that is in your life. Like, I don't even blame someone for not understanding that. Like, coming from my lens, from like my background and how like I was raised in this society, I don't blame a white person for not seeing this if they don't have a Black person that they care about in their lives. It's hard to see. Society frames the glasses that you wear. So I think the movement of Black Lives Matter is important because we've shown that they don't in the society for multiple occasions that we can list, and we have a list. We have a list. So there's not really a need for me to start naming names or naming events or whatever. Black people have given this country life. Like, they brought culture and music and so many beautiful things to us. We have music, we have Denzel Washington, we have Will Smith, I have Enoch McKee. We have all these things. I remember there was a movie, right? There's a movie that I can't remember quite the name of the movie, but so it was like might have been Denzel. I don't remember anymore. But there was like this black guy and a white guy. They were having this talk, and the white guy was like super racist. He's like whatever, saying inward this.
I think I already know the movie.
Yes. Well, what movie is it?
I think it's Do the Right Thing.
Okay, maybe. And then I think he was like Italian or something. Yeah. And the other guy's like, well, who's your favorite actor?
Do the Right Thing.
Denzel Washington. Who's your favorite this? Who's your favorite that? Mentions like all black people, right? And then he's like, but you don't think they deserve this? You're like, no, like they're whatever. And it like goes. We value our athletes. They're heroes. We value these. They're all these people are heroes, but we have this cognitive dissonance of, well, that's cool because they're this. But the average person, no. They're not actually, they're not that worthy. So there's so many things in U.S. culture that are from like what black people have given us, and we don't quite value it that way. We value it as it being there, but we don't value it as like that wasn't our culture originally. It was brought to us. Even food, man. Like there's so much food that we wouldn't have without black culture, and all of that like brings joy to me, brings joy to my family, brings joy to many American families, but we don't remember who it came from. And I think remembering who it came from is Black Lives Matter, right? It's starting to say, if you die unjustly, I die unjustly.
It's very Martin Luther King. Justice anywhere.
Right.
Injustice everywhere.
Right. Honestly, to me, that wasn't a great answer, but it's the best I can do right now. So
it was your answer. That's all that matters. It doesn't. I didn't want the perfect answer. I didn't want the tailored script answer that you're trying to win over voters with. That's the case. Listen, we got political debates going on all the time. It's not about politicians aren't solving anything right now.
Fair enough.
So, okay. So was that your movie reference for today?
That was not my movie reference.
Was okay, because that was Do the Right Thing. So yeah,
okay.
that was Do the Right Thing. Yeah.
The powerful. That was such a powerful scene. If you know what you're looking at.
Yeah. No. Because he brought up his favorite was Eddie Murphy, Magic Johnson, and Prince. Those were the three. Right. And the Italian American was like, well, those aren't like black people.
Right.
It's like, nah, they're
pretty black.
Yeah, they're as black as they come. I mean, yeah. They don't try to be anything else. So, yeah.
My favorite thing to watch regarding this is Malcolm X's speeches. Mm-hmm. When we first became friends, when you first started opening up to me about all of this, listening to him speak was, I don't know, so powerful, and it reached into me and it brought this fighting spirit out of what we can do. And he had so many ideas for what we could do. And I don't know if those ideas died with him or not. So, some of them didn't, right? But maybe some of the most powerful ones did. And I think we need to go listen to Malcolm X again. I have nothing against Martin Luther King Jr. He was a great man, but Malcolm X is one of my heroes. I think probably my biggest hero. I've read about him. I've watched him speak. He probably didn't like me. That's okay. That's okay. But I don't know. I've read into him. I've looked into his background. I've tried to feel his background, which is honestly, if you want to change racism, I think, and I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think you have to try to feel it, and that's one thing I did with Malcolm X. I read about him, and I tried to feel what he went through, all the things, all the pain that he had, and then listen to his speeches, feel where that's coming from, understand, do your best to understand, seek to understand where that's coming from. And when you do that, I think it gives you this framework of how we can start building. That's all I got.
Okay, so for the final question, I think I said that before, but for the real final question, last part of the podcast, you started off this podcast at the beginning saying you don't really know how you feel per se, or you don't have it yet. You don't have words for it yet. Now we're 40 something minutes into this podcast, about to reach its conclusion. Have those words come to you? And if they have, give it to all of us.
Can you give me a specific question so I can try to?
How do you feel
about what's going on?
How do you feel?
I feel unfulfilled.
Okay. Expand. Expound.
I want you and every other Black person that I was going to say that I encounter that is in my life, but really just that exists, right? I want, by my subconscious and by society, to be seen for our beauty and for our worth. It's not to be seen as the same. Not from my perspective. There are many beautiful things about being white. There are many beautiful things about being Black. And appreciating those differences is part of how you start solving the problem, I think. And until we do that, I will feel unfulfilled. I'll have fulfillment in other parts of my life, but that's something that has been deep within me since you became my best friend. I cannot die without you having that.
Well, I have nothing else left to say. Unless you have anything else you will.
I ran out of things to say 30 minutes ago. Just please flow out of it.
Well, buddy, thanks for being open and brave enough to have this conversation, to listen and now respond. So, again, these are those real conversations that, that this podcast is about. While we do have a lot of laughs and jokes and things of that nature, this is why we live. This is why art speaks, in order for us to really aim towards being that ideal society, where there is no injustice anywhere. And I will always say, we're not aiming to be a society where there is no injustice anywhere. If that's so unfathomable to you, then you don't really want to live. You don't even want, what are we doing as mankind if we're not trying to end these things? If we're not trying to be literally the best version of ourselves at all times? Isn't that what you just do in your own life? Aren't you always trying to just be the best version of yourself?
Sometimes.
You get a little piece by little bit. Hopefully at 18, you're not as good of a person as you are at 28, and then by 38, you're even better at 48, and then hopefully by the time it's time for you to, go to the next realm.
Then you're wise.
Yeah, hopefully you're not an old fool. But usually those choices are upon you and what you truly seek after. A lot of what you were saying is about you have to go out of your way to seek after these things.
Yes.
But guess what? You do it on a daily basis. Anybody who's married to anybody or has any type of relationship, that relationship didn't fall in your lap. You had to go out of your way to make an encounter happen.
Right.
You had to go out of your way to either get a yes or say yes. That job you have, you had to go out of your way. You had to go put in resumes. You probably got said no plenty of times. You had to go out of your way to get that job. That degree that you might have, or if you don't have the student debt, but you had to go out of the way to get those degrees. These weren't things, none of this stuff really fell into our laps. The only thing that fell into our laps was racism.
Yes, it did.
It's the only thing that we all literally, in American society, is really what binds all of us, that we are tied together by the system of racism. And so if we want to dismantle it, or not even dismantle it, just build something else that's better than it, we have to go out of our way to still build that system while we suffer from the ills of the system we currently live in.
Yeah. But isn't that worth it?
Always is, and it always will be. But people have to believe so. People have to hope.
Have to hope.
All right, guys. That was this episode.